Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today's episode is called Should I Flee the Country Because of My Divorce? Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, follow, and comment on the show. I'd also like to tell you about a service called HollywoodIsCalling.com. They allow you to purchase live phone calls with more than 100 celebrities. You can purchase a live 15-second call for $19.95 or a live 30-second call for $29.95. There are more than 100 movie stars and TV stars and athletes to choose from. It's a great gift idea for yourself or for somebody you care about. You can do it randomly, or you can purchase these calls as gifts on holidays or special occasions, or just use them as motivational calls for somebody you care about. So give it a try. HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now let's get started. Today, Matthew writes, I live in California and I'm going through a divorce. And my judge is a female judge that is ruling constantly in my wife's favor on every issue, even though it was my wife who cheated on me and who has a drinking problem. If this divorce goes through, I will literally be bankrupt and financially destroyed. I'm thinking of leaving the country and never coming back because of all this. What do you think? Well, if you do that, there will obviously be very severe legal consequences. I don't advocate that you do that, but people in your position, when they do flee, they often flee to non-extradition countries. But the problem is once you do that, you can probably never return again, without facing the legal consequences. You might also want to explore the option of filing a motion to change judges. You never know; it's probably a long shot, but give that a try. In California, things are very difficult. The laws there and the judges there, they're very anti-husband and very anti-father. It is an amazingly biased judiciary and legal system in California. So, your options are going to be very difficult. The next question is from Ebony. Ebony writes, is a degree in medicine still as lucrative a career path as it used to be? Well, that depends entirely on what area of medicine you go into. Some specialties make much more money than others. General practitioners, for example, are being crushed by insurance costs, regulations, insurance bureaucracies and forms and paperwork. And also their salaries are being driven down by competitive forces, competitive pressure brought about by all the foreign doctors coming into the United States to practice here. A lot also depends on your geography as well, because the population and demographics of the area you want to practice in will determine how much business you do. It'll also have an effect on whether or not it's economically possible for you to open your own clinic. So, keep all that in mind as you analyze the options. Next, Woodrow writes, I work in the service sector in Las Vegas and things have been terrible. It's been months since I or the people I associate with have been able to make any money. Do you think that I should hang in there and wait for Vegas to turn around? Well, that depends entirely on your own financial circumstances. It depends on how much money you have saved, how much longer you can keep paying your bills. Will the virus return in October, as a lot of people are predicting that it will? Do you have the ability to find another job outside of your current profession? Do you have family or friends you can turn to for help if it comes down to that? In my opinion, the economy for the next 90 days is not going to be strong enough for people to suddenly decide they want to go out and waste what little money they have left on gambling. But you never know. A lot of big gamblers are extremely desperate financially, or they're just pathological risk takers who can't stop themselves from gambling. So it's difficult to judge. If I were you, I would begin to aggressively look for a plan B and a plan C just in case there are challenges with regards to, staying in your current profession in Vegas. Next, Boris writes, what's the best way to find a repairman or mechanic that won't rip you off? First, I would talk to family and friends to see what they would recommend. Next, I would check the reviews of people on Yelp or Angie's List or Google to find somebody that way. Once you find people to interview, Check their reputation with the Better Business Bureau. Lastly, if you do decide to hire someone, hire them for a small job first, and then if that goes well, hire them for a larger job or for the rest of the first job after you see how well they've done the smaller test job that you've given them. Next, Iwan writes, what are the real growth areas in business? Well, I believe we'll see a massive increase in demand for security experts and companies and security companies because of recent events. And it won't just be cybersecurity that will increase its demand. It'll also be physical security. If you're thinking of starting a security company, for example, then you should do some deep research on the competition, their services, their prices, see what they have available and how much they're charging. Then you have to come up with your own unique and innovative services, something that will draw attention to your company. One thing you may want to consider is offering a service that hardens the security of physical retailers. Many of these retailers lately have had their stores destroyed by looters and by rioters, and now some of them are getting their insurance claims denied. So a lot of them, if they do decide to return to the business, they're going to be willing to pay more for the physical security and strengthening of their stores. So give that some thought. Next, Ocean writes, do you see any good business ideas in Europe that could be brought over here? Yes. In Europe, we're seeing a lot of outdoor discos, concerts, outdoor churches, and other businesses being created by the need for social distancing. There are events designed to allow people to drive in with their cars, and then they enjoy the event from the front seat of their cars. Single people will write their phone numbers on balloons, and then they tie those balloons to their cars. And if someone comes to the disco and they start flirting with them, they can go out and they can meet on one of the outdoor dance floors. These car-centric discos and concerts are becoming very popular in Europe. So much so that some people are driving 50 to 75 miles a weekend just to attend these events. Next, Casey writes, how can I make serious money as a photographer? That depends on where you live and what your interests are. Wedding photographers can do well once they build up a nice portfolio of their work to show future customers. But until then, it can be a little challenging. In some cities, freelance crime scene photographers and video photographers can make good money if they're really good at what they do. In Southern California, the paparazzi market can make some money under the right circumstances, but that market is saturated and overrun by criminals and felons who were specifically hired by the paparazzi agency because they want these gangbangers to deliberately break the law in their attempts to get that special photograph or special video of a celebrity. What they'll do is they'll have these gangbangers physically assault celebrities just so they can get an emotional response from them, and hoping that that will generate a lucrative photo or video of them. I've also heard that Airbnb photographers can do quite well if they can take great pictures designed to make a marginal home look really nice to the people who want to rent them out. Eve writes the following. She says, the economy in my town is really bad. I'm thinking of going back into the military. What do you think? Well, that's a really hard choice. If you go that route, then you might want to consider a branch of the services which will minimize the risks of you getting killed. Consider the Coast Guard or the Air Force or even the Navy. I think the Army and the Marines are probably the most dangerous options. You might also look into working for the Border Patrol or Homeland Security. Next, Elliot writes, is it possible to make money buying cars at auctions and then flipping them to the public? Well, I have to tell you, almost every car auction I've ever heard about has been extremely corrupt. They tamper with titles. They flood the audience with fake bidders who were there to drive up the auction prices on other unsuspecting customers. They bring cars in from other flood-ravaged states and they try to auction them off to inexperienced or unwitting buyers who don't realize what they're getting. They try to lure people in by telling them that if they don't like the car after they bought it, they can return it within X number of days and exchange it for another car. But the problem with that is that it's almost impossible to find anything there at these auctions that's not a scam. You have to be really, really careful. The professionals who do this at auctions, they go there and they'll buy 8 or 10 cars. for a very low dollar amount, and then they'll flip some of these cars at a lower price, lose money on some and make money on the others. That's the game they play. So you have to be really careful. So with that in mind, I want to thank you for watching and tell you that we will talk to you soon.